Got to put on the bells. For all of you that can't quite see what Ron is doing, every part of his body is now a percussion instrument. And I'm not kidding. All right. 2, 3. So many things we can't control. So many hurts happen every day. So many hearts that pierce the soul. So much pain that won't ever go away. How do we make it better? How do we make it through? What can we do when there's nothing we can do? We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we don't need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. No one really wants to fight. Nobody really wants to go to war. If everyone wants to make things right, then what are we all fighting for? Does nobody want to see it? Does nobody understand? The power to heal is right here in our hands. We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And if it's not enough to talk about it, not enough to sing a song, we must walk the walk about it. You and I, do or die, we've got to try to get along. We can be kind. We can take care of each other. We can remember that deep down inside we all need the same thing. And maybe we'll find, if we are there for each other, that together we'll weather whatever tomorrow may bring. And maybe we'll find true peace of mind if we always remember we can be kind.
Well, you know, if you saw Gerry today, that he's got a bow tie on, and that can only mean one thing, and that, oh, his shoes. Oh, y'all on Zoom are going to be really sad to miss his shoes. They are awesome. They're purple wingtips. That is too cool. Too cool for school. That's awesome. All right. With no further ado, Reverend Gerry Brague.
I have to get my mask off. There we go. I was trapped. I didn't think my shoes would be such a an event, but I don't know if I need to say anything now. Do you think you're compassionate? Do you show compassion? Are you moved by the pains of others? Moved enough to act in some way? I would imagine that most of us here in the building and on Zoom today would indeed say we are compassionate, at least most of the time. Maybe once in a while there's a rough edge, but most of the time we are compassionate, and that's a good thing. The world needs more compassion, more sympathy, and as Michael just sang, more kindness. The word compassion is literally means a sharing of suffering. It's two Latin words put together, com, which means with or together, and pati, which means suffering. When we are compassionate towards another, we suffer with them whatever they are going through and want to alleviate that suffering in some way. Of course, we cannot always alleviate the suffering, but to exhibit compassion, we seek to do so in some way. Now, today I want to look at compassion from three different viewpoints from different faith perspectives. Religion has often had something to say about compassion. It's one of the oldest tenets that has come down to us through faith. Today, I want to look at these three faiths and their thoughts on compassion and see how we can apply them to our lives now. So in the Hebrew scriptures, Hesed, and it's actually pronounced chesed, but I'm not going to try that the whole time. Hesed is an important part of the relationship of God with the people of Israel, and then of the relationships among the Hebrew people. Hesed in English Bibles is usually translated as loving kindness. God's loving kindness leads God to be compassionate towards God's people. Hesed is not merely an emotion or feeling, but involves action on behalf of someone who is in need. Hesed describes a sense of love and loyalty that inspires merciful and compassionate behavior towards another person. Hesed shows up in the Hebrew Bible some 250 times. The compassion of God towards the people is an important part of God's very character. From the beginning, when Moses was attempting to turn aside God's wrath at the people for worshiping idols, Moses appealed to God's Hesed. In Exodus 20, verse 6, God says that God lavishes Hesed for 1,000 generations on those who love God and obey God's commands. This trustworthy, ever-enduring, loyal aspect of God's covenantal love resonates throughout the Hebrew scriptures, in spite of the unfaithfulness of the people at times. This is true compassion, that feeling that there is loving kindness despite how the other person has treated you. Hesed also extends to the relationship between people too. It doesn't have to be a God-only event. It compels one person to care for someone else who is suffering. It is often expressed especially between two people of unequal standing. To show compassion, one doesn't have to be of a higher power than the other, but that shows true Hesed, when there is an inequality that the person of higher power is compelled by compassion to help the suffering of another. Hesed between people is used to express those times when true love and compassion flows. Now, in the Christian Testament, compassion is often seen, especially on the part of Jesus, as when he took compassion on a hungry crowd that had gathered. But to illustrate compassion, I want to retell a story that's in the book of Luke, which expresses it. It's a parable or story that Jesus told. The story goes that there was a traveler once who was going along the road from Jerusalem to Jericho. This particular route was known to be dangerous. The traveler was on his way to his destination when he was set upon by thieves who left him bloodied, penniless, and severely injured alongside of the road. Along the road came a priest who crossed over to the other side of the road, avoiding the injured man. Then came a Levite who did the exact same thing, and a Levite was someone who was a class of religious people who maintained purity. Now, one might expect such holy people to exhibit compassion, but no. But at last, along the road came a Samaritan. Now, we've all heard of others who have been called good Samaritans. It usually means a helpful, compassionate person who aids those in need, which is a good definition. But the punchline to Jesus's story is that Samaritans were hated by the Jews, hated by the very person who was there bleeding in the ditch. Samaritans, those people from Samaria, they were the enemies, the bad guys, Dodger fans, especially today. Of course, it's the Samaritan who stops and helps the injured traveler, caring for his wounds, and even going as far as taking the man to an inn, whereupon he gives the innkeeper money to care for the injured man, and promises not only that, promises to return to pay for any additional expenses. Jesus' point was that this despised person, this enemy, was the one who showed compassion. Christians are called to show compassion to others. To paraphrase a verse from the Bible, Christians are called to be compassionate as their God in heaven is compassionate. We are to emulate God's compassion and love in relationship with others. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a theologian in prison for his views in Germany during World War II, said this once, quote, "We must learn to regard people less in the light of what they do or omit to do, and more in the light of what they suffer." We cannot turn a blind eye to the suffering of others. Christians are impelled to care and be compassionate. Now, in Buddhism, compassion is one of the two qualities that leads to true enlightenment along with wisdom. The word usually translated as compassion is karuna, and I think I'm saying that correctly. I might not be, which is understood to mean active sympathy or a willingness to bear the pain of others. In Buddhist thought, compassion leads to wisdom, wisdom leads to compassion. You need the heart and the head for enlightenment. The Dalai Lama wrote about compassion and had this to say: according to Buddhism, compassion is an aspiration, a state of mind, wanting others to be free from suffering. It's not passive. It's not empathy alone, but rather an empathetic altruism that actively strives to free others from suffering. Genuine compassion must have both wisdom and loving kindness. That is to say, one must understand the nature of the suffering from which we wish to free others. This is wisdom. And one must experience deep intimacy and empathy with other sentient beings. This is loving kindness. Compassion does not expect thanks or rewards in response. We don't show compassion in order to be rewarded or appreciated. We show compassion just because it's the right thing to do. Buddhism expects adherents to be compassionate as a matter of course. Now, in summation, these three faiths believe that we are to be compassionate just as a way of life. We can echo the divine's compassion towards us by being compassionate towards others. Compassion is something we do. It's how we're supposed to be. It's not a special moment, it's an ongoing way of life. I urge you to evaluate your compassion, and if you find it lacking, seek to discover ways that you can be compassionate. It can be small things, like holding a door for a person or helping out the homeless through good acts. And it can be larger things, such as seeking to end violence in our culture and comforting those who are grieving. And so, my friends, be compassionate. Show loving kindness and sympathy and empathy and whatever else you can muster towards others on this earth, both human and non-human. And so it is. Amen. So for our meditation, I invite you to get comfortable where you're sitting, or if you're at home in Zoom, lying, however you are, just get comfortable. Feel the support of wherever you're on, whatever you're on. Feel its connection to the floor below you, holding you up. And then the connection to the wider universe, that you are part of all the creation through where you're sitting right now. So relax. Relax, and wherever tension has built up in your body, breathe through those spots and soften them. Take a deep breath and hold it for a moment, and then slowly release it. And I invite you to do this for a few moments in the silence that I'm going to allow to follow. Our meditation today is simple. I'm going to say a few phrases, and a time of silence will follow each of them. In those silences, continue to breathe and focus on your breath. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am. Be still and know that I. Be still and know. Be still. Be. Now I invite you to take another deep breath. Hold it for a moment and slowly let it out. And maybe start to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Roll your shoulders a little. And come back to the place where you are, knowing that you can return to this place of rest and tranquility whenever you need. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Gerry, for that wonderful meditation on compassion. something to remind ourselves of frequently. It's not a done deal. It's not like you just get it, right? It's a practice. So, speaking of practices, let us remind ourselves of what it is that we try to be and what it is that we try to do. Here at Unity Spiritual Center, we are an ocean of love. Here at Unity Spiritual Center, we have an inspiring vision, an exciting mission, and compelling values by which we strive to live. And I invite you to join with me in saying them aloud. Our vision is centered in God. We co-create a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of shared spiritual awakening. Our mission is we are a creative, joy-filled spiritual community dedicated to healing, inspiring, and transforming the lives of all people through prayer, education, and love. And our values are, we are spirit-led, generous with resources, inclusive, joyously creative, and guided by integrity. And in this space, in that space where you are on Zoom, feeling inspired by our vision, mission, and values, and feeling enriched by what we've experienced here today, let us take time now to be a channel for enrichment through our generous tithes and love offerings. As Michael shares another beautiful song, please take that time to write a check out to USC, or if you are on Zoom, to make a donation online using the link that will be provided, that was just provided in the chat. And if you are here in the sanctuary, the ushers, Susan and Valerie, will come forward to take your offering. Practicing the principle of tithing ourselves as a spiritual community, we are pleased to tithe 10% of the offering collected every Sunday to various Unity organizations and to local nonprofits serving our city, because we believe in compassion. So let's take a moment now to bless our tithes and our offerings, placing them in our hands or next to our hearts as we say our offertory prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God.
Love, joy, kindness, forgiveness, and compassion. Joy, kindness, forgiveness, and love. Joy, kindness, forgiveness, and compassion. Joy, kindness, forgiveness, and compassion. There's just a few things one needs to survive. A little water, little shelter to keep us alive. To live a full life we need much more than that. We all know where to find it, we all know where it's at. It's love, joy, kindness, forgiveness, and love. Joy, kindness, forgiveness, and love. Joy, kindness, forgiveness, and compassion. Joy, kindness, forgiveness, and compassion. Love keeps us happy, joy sets us free. They go well together, just like fish in the sea. Love is never ending, a lifetime supply. Love keeps on giving even after we die. It's love, joy, kindness, forgiveness, and compassion. You guys sing here. Kindness, forgiveness, and love, joy, kindness, forgiveness, and love, joy, kindness, forgiveness, and compassion. Kindness and forgiveness is no mystery. They connect us all together in one big family. Give up a smile, forget words spoken haste. There's a lot to forgive, and there is no time to waste. Love, joy, kindness, forgiveness, forgiveness and compassion. Joy, kindness, forgiveness and love. Joy, kindness, forgiveness and compassion. Joy, kindness, forgiveness and compassion. Compassion is a virtue, and use it with grace. Don't be afraid to let it show up on your face. For someone in need, use some respect. We all come away with much more than we expect. Love, joy, kindness, forgiveness, and compassion. Joy, kindness, forgiveness, and love. Joy, kindness, forgiveness, and compassion. 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 Of the living God, bless the